Okay, take out this packet that we were working on yesterday. Yesterday we did numbers 1 and 2 together, and then I asked you to do the rest through 10. So you were supposed to do up through number 10 there. When we get to number 11, suddenly the equations are different. This adds an extra step into our problem. So we're going to do number 11 together, and then you will have an assignment for the rest of the packet. So for actually we'll probably do number 11 and 12 together. So for number 11 here, we cannot go directly to graphing like we could in numbers 1 through 10 because they are not in y equals mx plus b form. So the first thing I need to do is I need to take each equation and solve it for y. And we practiced this on the last worksheet that we did, that we graded on Tuesday. So we have 5x plus y equals 4. And we need to get the y by itself. So we want to get this y alone. So what we do is we look at what's on the same side of the equation as the y, and we want to move anything else that's over there to the other side. So that would be this 5x. Y would be by itself if we just move the 5x over. So we're going to move that over by subtraction, since it's a positive 5x. Cancel that off, bring down the y, bring down the equal sign. We talked about this a lot. We cannot combine these. One has an x, the other one does not. So we're just going to write it as an expression, 4 minus 5x. Now it's in the form that we can go ahead and graph it. B, remember, is the number without the variable. So B here is 4. So we're going to go to 4 on the y-axis. And then M is the number in front of x, so that's negative 5. But we want to change that into a fraction, so we're going to put it over 1. So negative 5 is our rise, 1 is our run. So from that point that we just graphed, 4, we're going to rise negative 5, which means we're going 5 units down. And then we're going to the right one. And then we're going to connect those points. And again, I've said this before in class, one of the downfalls of graphing is that you have to be very exact with your lines. So there's that one. Now we need to do the same thing here. So we do not have the y by itself, so we want to rewrite this just so I have somewhere to do some work here. Some of you might have to get a separate sheet of paper to do these. We want to get y by itself. So what we have over here on the same side of the y is the x and the negative. The negative belongs to the y, so I'm going to get rid of the x first by subtracting x from both sides. Bring down the negative y. Again, we can't combine the 2 and the negative x, so it's going to be 2 minus x. And then this negative in front of the y, remember, represents a negative 1, which is being multiplied by y, so we're going to divide everything by y. Over here, we have to divide every term by y. So we have y equals 2 divided by negative 1 is negative 2. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, so we have a positive x. B here is negative 2, so we're going to go to negative 2 on the y-axis. And then my slope is the number in front of x. Many of you keep asking me, I don't know what that number is. And my response is, well, how many x's are there? And you say 1. Yeah, there's 1 x. So the number in front of that is 1. Put it over 1, so we have the rise and the run. So from this point, we're going to go up 1 and over 1, and then connect those points. I also noticed yesterday a lot of people, when I was coming around and watching you work, you were not writing down your solution. So you were doing this part of the problem, and then you were stopping there. This is not our answer. We are looking for the ordered pair, remember, that makes both of these true. And that ordered pair we found by graphing and looking at the intersection point. So we need to name this point. That is our solution. So up here, our x value is 1. Over here, our y value is -1. So our ordered pair, our solution is +1, -1. Now when you get towards the end of these, they seem to get very, very scary, but the process is still the same. So I'm going to jump to the end here. Let's look at I'm trying to find one that would freak you out. Let's look at number 30. So number 30 again is not in the correct form, so I'm going to rewrite this first equation just so I have some room to work down here. And then my goal is to get y by itself. So I want to move everything to the other side of the equal sign. I have a lot to move because I have a 3x that's being added, I have a 4 that's being added, and I have a 2 that's being multiplied. So I have lots of things to move. It doesn't matter if you move the 4 or the 3x first, but you have to save the 2 for last. We get rid of anything that's being added or subtracted first. So I'm going to subtract 3x, bring down 2y, the +4. 0 minus 3x is -3x. And I'm going to move the 4, so I'm going to subtract 4. So we have 2y equals, again, 3x, negative, and -4 do not both have x's, so they're unlike terms. So I'm going to write this as -3x minus 4. And then now I can get rid of the 2, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. There we go. So we have y equals -3 divided by 2 does work out to being a pretty nice decimal there, but we want to leave it as a fraction, so it's going to become -3 over 2x. And then -4 divided by 2 is -2. So my b value is -2, so I'm going to go up and plot -2 on the y-axis. And then my slope is -3 over 2. So from that point, I'm going to go down 3 and right 2, and then I'm going to connect those. Also, some of you I noticed yesterday were messing up because you just weren't making your lines long enough. You were like, well, these would never intersect. Well, that's because you're just not making your lines long enough. You got to make sure your lines go from edge of graph to edge of graph. It's not just those few points that you graph. All right, and then our other equation there is -2y equals 8 plus 3x. -2y equals 8 plus 3x. So here we're trying to get y by itself. Unlike the previous one where we had a lot of things to move, here we have hardly anything to move. We got the times -2, so we're going to divide everything by -2. So -2 divided by -2 cancels, and we have y equals 8 divided by -2 is -4. 3 divided by -2, just like the previous one, this has a nice decimal, but we're not going to write it as a decimal. We're going to leave it as a fraction. So b here is -4, so we're going to go to -4. And then my slope is -3 over 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And what you should notice about these lines, both visually and from what we learned about last semester, these lines have the exact same slope. Oh, I forgot to write this one down. So the slope of this line, the purple line, is exactly the same as the slope of this line, the blue line. When we have two lines that have the same slope, that means they're parallel lines. We talked about that at the end of the last semester. When we have parallel lines, great, it's beautiful, they look very nice and parallel, but remember, Our goal was to find the place where these intersect. That's our solution. Parallel lines are never going to intersect. Therefore, there is no solution here. Remember, we solved equations in first semester where we would get no solution, or we could solve equations where we got all solutions. Because this never intersects, that's why we end up getting no solution here. That's one of the special cases for these systems. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go through and starting with number 12, you are either going to do the remaining evens, so you do 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 until the end, or you could start with number 13 and do the odds. So 13, 15, 17, 19, so on and so forth. So I want you to do the rest of the worksheet. You get to choose whether or not you do the evens or the odds. Tomorrow for class, I want you to have 1 through 10 done on here. I want you to have either the evens or odds for 11 through 30. So 1 through 10, all. 11 through 30, either evens or odds. And you also need to have your IXL diagnostic done for tomorrow. So you have lots to work on for the remainder of the hour.